Morning all, let's have a look at game 5, which was played yesterday. So Topalov playing white against Anand. He kicked off again with d4, and Anand repeated the Slav defence, which he had already secured a draw in an earlier round in the match. So the Slav defence, rock solid. Doesn't have the problem with the queenside bishop that can develop. So it's kind of the new classical, very, very popular at the moment at all levels. So knight f3, knight f6, and white plays here now knight c3, not minding about black capturing on c4. And now Topalov plays a4. So his intention is to get this pawn back. And I think the old method was e3, but this is the more this is the better method with Topalov's knight e5. Don't move the e pawn, but instead get a pawn center with f3 and e4, which shuts out this light squared bishop at the very least. So e6, and now f3. So white's going to be playing e4. So c5. So now e4 blocking in that bishop on the queen side. And just for the sake of convenience, I'll just let you know again, c takes d is refuted here by e takes, d takes, and then queen takes d8, because then knight takes f7. So that's why black needs to really move the bishop here now after e4. So he moves it to g6. Now Topalov plays bishop e3, and again we're seeing repeat moves from a previous game, and the queens are coming off again. So queen takes d4, queen takes d4, bishop takes d4. So yawns in the audience, the queens have come off. Oh no, we're in for a boring, dull game. Well, yeah, but it's interesting though. A 2800 player. Imagine if you were playing someone FIDE 2800. Wouldn't it be nice if you could comfortably draw, with the black pieces, with a solid and safe kind of position? So this is what Anand wanted, because he was blown away in the Groomfield, so the Slav is a very good choice to repeat again. And it's strange actually that Topalov hasn't varied and gone into this line again. Had he prepared a novelty of some sort? But it doesn't seem it's like novelty territory. The queens have come off, the tension has been reduced quite a bit. Black structure, pawn structure is kind of solid. The main problem is this bishop, and so if there's going to be a novelty, I guess it's going to be related to that. So after knight takes d7, more pieces coming off, bishop takes c4, and then plays the concession again, a6, and again we see the move rook c1. So this has all been played before. So the mysterious rook move, we saw some of the complications it could create potentially in conjunction with a5 and knight b5 in an earlier video in the side variations. So potentially, it's dangerous at the moment for the black king, still stuck in the center. There's some latent tactical potential here. The immediate problem again is this g7 pawn, and Anand repeats his move rook g8. It does the job of protecting that g pawn, liberating the bishop to go somewhere. So, and now h4, and now we have the first novelty of the game. Exciting novelty. Instead of the move h6, Anand actually surprises Topalov first. So he gets his novelty in first, before Topalov has a chance to unleash the amazing innovation he might have prepared. So Anand plays h5. So let's have a look closely. What is the difference between h5 and h6? Well, the h5 pawn might be a target here. That's one thing. So maneuvers like knight e2 and f4 are going to hit both h5 and e6 at the same time. And if they did that, maybe then g4 would force black also to play hg, fg, and there's a potential then for h5 and h6, so undermining like f6 more. If white has this greater potential, also to peel open the g file. So it's got its downsides. That's one downside. What's one upside? Well, one upside maybe is if there is, in the previous line with h6, there's a pawn on h5 for white. The bishop's on h7. So to get to f7, or sorry, on this diagonal, with f6 and bishop f7, it would have to go to g8 first. Here, you know, it's one move potentially. If this bishop wasn't eyeing e6, then f6 and bishop f7 is all in one move, instead of having to sort of move the rook, get the bishop to g8, and then play sort of f6. So the bishop's more still in the game then, towards the centre, just a little bit more than on h7. That's some differences. I could go on, but let's see what happened in the game. Let's focus on the game. Let's go back to the game. In fact, the first difference is exploited by Topalov's next move anyway. So knight e2. And also, you could consider, look, if white is able to get rid of black's dark squared bishop, then actually white might actually have a small advantage. The problem here, though, Anand's got a nice e5 square to make use of. So his next move actually is quite good. Bishop d6. Quite good at that, I say. A 2170 saying a 2787's move is quite good. Of course it's quite good. It's Anand. So anyway, bishop e3 to knight e5. So why doesn't white ever want to kick? Like, well, at the moment the bishop's attacked anyway, but in principle f4 is also tricky, because actually here's another advantage I forgot to mention. That pawn on h5 now supports a nice hook, you know, for knight g4s later if white ever plays f4. So that's another thing to bear in mind. So Topalov, he doesn't mind Anand taking on c4 actually. He just casually plays knight f4. Now, is there a real threat of knight takes g6, you know, giving up the bishop pair, you might ask? I don't think so, because that bishop is sort of blocked in anyway, and it would intensify black's dark squared pressure, you know, in particular f4 as well. You know, if the knight was on g6, f4 and e5 would still be kind of pressurized by black, kind of nicely. So here, actually, Anand just played rook c8. So doesn't mind losing that bishop pair. And Topalov here, actually, if he plays knight takes g6, you know, maybe there's another option now, like knight takes c4, rook takes c4. In any case, so Topalov offers the exchange of rooks with bishop b3, which Anand actually takes now. But there's a tactical idea emerging here, believe it or not, an interesting tactical idea, that although, you know, but black solved a lot of problems already, and, you know, by getting rid of one of the rooks, you know, this other rook, it's not tied down anymore to g7 in any case. So Anand, by playing king e7, he's ready to move his rook, you know, potentially to c8. I think that's the more useful square than d8 here. So what's going on now? So again, let's have a look at knight g6 in principle. I don't think it's very good here. Knight g6, and black's got pressure on these dark squares and hasn't got any bad pieces. So that's the point. And in fact, if white can be robbed of the dark square bishop later, we would say bishop f4 in that position. Knight at g6, and let bishop f4. The knight versus bishop ending is not so clear either. In fact, we do get a knight versus bishop ending if we plough a bit further into this game. So king e2, rook c8. So Topalov plays bishop d2. And now here's a really interesting move, actually, probably one of the most interesting moves from black in this game, and we're going to have a look at why it worked and what it does. This light squared bishop is still, you know, potentially a problem on g6. So maybe f6 and bishop f7, or even f6 and bishop e8 might be useful. The move f6, I mean, has other ideas as well. But you might be wondering, well, e6 is vulnerable if f6. Well, Anand actually did play f6. So let's have a look. If knight takes e6, now without checking Rybka, it looks as though that's walking into a terrible pin, because this bishop is not protected. So bishop f7, I guess, is a good move, but I might be wrong, because there's knight d4 now if white wants to save a piece. So this is why, to save embarrassment here, for white, e6 isn't a disaster. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to turn on Rybka here. So Rybka goes on. Let's have a look at knight e6 and bishop e6. How are they refuted? Okay, I've got the analysis underneath the board. So knight e6, new variation. Bishop f7 is indeed the move. Knight d4. I think it's to do with black's rook coming to the 7th rank actually. Bishop takes, knight takes, rook c2, yes. I think this would be too active. I think black's at least equal. Ripper has given this at least equal. It's not winning or anything, it's just equal, apparently. So, you know, what would Topalov be doing about b2 here? So say he tried to chase the knight, f4, knight c6. So say white tried to defend now, rook b1. There'll be rook c4 if black wants to get material back here. So Anand will be kind of fully equalised, I think, in this position, because the rook's nice and active. The pawn, you know, this is a nice isolated pawn now.